Now, before I ask all the panels to come on stage, I'd like to introduce you to our moderator of today's session. She is the CEO of Smart Compliance. She's also a board member of the Crypto Valley Association. Welcome on stage, Ekaterina Anthony. Now, Ekaterina, you are supporting, or you're a partner with Smart Compliance of CRYPTO2030. Why is that, and why CRYPTO2030 and not CRYPTO2040 or 50?
Well, we have plans to be for a long time here, and let's start with the next 6 years to adapting and educating globally just normal people, professionals in other industries, and then we will see. This is our benchmark. Like in 2030, everyone should know about adoption, Web3 and crypto, and use it and benefit from it.
You heard from Juan how things are going in Hong Kong. Were you surprised in terms of regulation, or did you know all of that? Because he gave really a deep dive into this.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. I think that I also really impressed by Juan himself that he's a fighter. You can see that he's so smart professional who really want to achieve results. And we had a really deep dive into Hong Kong. But we can continue as well because we have here representative, for example, Yves just arrived from Hong Kong. Oh, sorry, Alessandro just arrived from Hong Kong. Alessio just arrived from Hong Kong, and Yves arrived from Canada. And we have
super international.
JC arriving from, just come from El Salvador, and we have also Swiss and German representative here. So let's kick off the session and let's talk about it.
Okay,
yes.
Have fun. Thank you so much.
All right.
So I can officially start. Please, everyone, take your seats. It's the first session. We will try to make it so impressive that everyone in Davos should talk and come for our event. We have a 5 days event. And you know, I don't want to be too official, even it's about regulation. And even we have a very official representative here, and we are really impressed because JC made it yesterday. And you just arrived, right?
Yeah.
You have probably jet lag.
Not yet, but
okay,
it's gonna kick in soon.
I would like audience, please come here closer. We need you here. Please come and sit down. We have places here, and stop talking. It will be difficult for us to talk if you all also talking. You have break after you can discuss things. Hello, everyone. Yes, please silence. We need the silence that you listen to us. Thank you so much. And come closer. We need to feel your love. Yes, yes. Okay, first what I would like to suggest, it's a difficult topic, but let's make it a bit of fun as well. Let's talk it the way that we give people education, maybe a bit of advice, some ideas. And I suggest that we start from Yves and everyone introduce himself and just say a couple words about you and why you are here actually.
All right. My name is Yves Larose. I'm from Canada. I'm the CEO and founder of the EOS Network Foundation, amongst other things. So also founder of EOS Network Ventures. I've been in this crypto industry now full-time for about 6 years. I started mining Bitcoin 2010, so very early on. I actually worked on the government side of things until joining crypto. So I used to work for the feds in Canada as an economist. So I worked on more on the public servant side of things in terms of how do you push regulations. I have a really deep understanding of that. And then I switched over to politics, and I was talking to Juan earlier. I work for the Assembly of First Nations in Canada. So I also got a sense of, on the other side of the coin, if you're on the political side, how do you actually put regulations through? And then coming into crypto, obviously with regulations coming about and with everything that we're seeing with the SEC last week, I think it's quite proper topic to kick this off and share some insights.
Super. Alessio?
Sure, thanks. My name is Alessio. I'm the founder of Hextrust. Extras is a digital asset, originally custody, but more broadly a financial service provider. We operate in Asia, out of Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, and in Europe, in France and in Italy. We've been in the space for over 6 years now, so we're one of the, I'd say, one of the survivors of the different cycles of the industry has gone through. I'm also the founder of another, I would say, more degen company, which is a decentralized protocol for borrowing and lending called Clearpool Finance, which we kicked off around 2.5 years ago, and we achieved around 500 million of loans in the last 2 years. In terms of background, I've been in the space since 2015. Maybe one thing I share with you is the fact that originally, even though I'm an engineer, one of my first steps into financial markets was actually working for the regulator. I used to work for the Italian regulator on the market manipulation and basically overseeing all the financial institutions and intermediaries. And we tried to bring technology to the regulator. It was not really, if it's hard to bring technology to a bank, it's much harder to bring it to a regulator, because regulators really operate out of a different kind of incentive. We can talk about that. But I think in terms of what it provided me with is kind of really an understanding of how regulators go about things and how their perspectives on and why they move fast or slow or why they don't move at all.
Great.
Which proved very useful for my career in the crypto business.
Great. So we have 2 ex-regulators here. And I know that in Switzerland, for example, regulation is regulator is technology neutral. Yes. Maybe we'll talk a bit later about it. Guido, it's your turn.
Isn't this not the rainforest protection panel? No. Okay. No. My name is Guido Schmitz-Krummacher. I'm not a regulator, but I was luckily a very early incorporation board member of a couple of blockchain projects like Cardano, Wings, Golem, in Cosmos Interchain, Tezos, Bancor, Lisk. So I was quite early in the space here in Switzerland. And luckily, all the projects still exist, even if we have increased the regulation. I was also a commentary on the via INATBA of the MiCA regulation in European Union. My background is I'm a lawyer, but I'm not working in a law firm. I'm more a legal rebel and protect customers on legal and finance is also in a second study I passed. And I'm a certified Swiss board member, so this is a background why I entered into the space. And I'm very happy to be part here and maybe make a little bit also the argumentation and
we definitely will argument a bit. So JC, your turn, please.
Hi, thanks for the invite. Juan Carlos Reyes. I'm the president of the National Asset Commission. We regulate digital assets in El Salvador. El Salvador was, I like to say, baptized in fire when it came to digital assets because we legalized Bitcoin in 2021. It's probably the only country in the world where even your grandmother has heard of Bitcoin or actually owns Bitcoin since it's our legal tender. The president, Nayib Bukele, gave us, everyone a present and gave us $30 in Bitcoin for us to do what we wish with it. Technically, literally, he bought us a case of beer for every single citizen. So only president in the world has been kind enough to do that. But given the fact that Bitcoin, it's synonymous to our country, I mean, it is our legal currency, or understanding of digital assets, it's probably forced to be wider and more in-depth than for most countries. And through that, the government realized that the banking infrastructure, or as Alessio was referring, the existing regulators perhaps were going to be a hindering factor in helping to foster and adopt new technologies and allowing the ecosystem to thrive in El Salvador. Therefore, law was created that removed or carved out the regulation of digital assets from the banking regulator and created the commission that strictly looks at digital assets. And that's the commission that I preside. So El Salvador is the only country in the world where digital assets has its own regulating body. And given the fact that I was kind of headhunted to be part of this, Salvadorian in El Salvador, we had an outflow of immigration of Salvadorians. We had over 2 million Salvadorians that live all over the world. And now that the country's safe again, a lot of us are starting to come back and doing business in El Salvador. So given my background being in crypto, I was requested to lead the commission, and we've been able to put in a really exclusive team of people that understand technology, of people that are young and can embrace the adaptation required to regulate crypto or digital assets. We really stand in very solid ground when it comes to welcoming companies to El Salvador when it comes to crypto.
So it sounds really unique experience when you separate the digital assets, what probably need to be done in other jurisdictions, because we see a lot of discrepancy. We have a lot of different approaches to how to regulate the crypto assets, and also regulators trying to bring it to the standards of traditional assets. But I suggest, Mattia, you introduce yourself, and then I will make a question for all of you.
With pleasure, thank you, Ekaterina, and hello everyone. My name is Mattia Rattaggi. I am based in Zug. I run for 7 years already an advisory that is dedicated to developing businesses in the Web3 space. I am, amongst other things, a co-founder of Seba Bank, and my advisory is focusing not on the technical part of things, but rather on the governance, regulatory, legal, and compliance side of things, which it is what for me is to be understood under regulation. It's much broader than just legal or compliance. Before that, I've been in a large bank, and I've headed regulatory relations and regulatory affairs for the UBS group for many years. I've never been a regulator otherwise, but very much in touch with the regulations, and very much I'm always a proponent of a regulation that helps the business, right? So it is a strategic variable for our business, and we must get it right, respectful of the goal of the regulation, which we all agree upon. That's my background.
Great. So let's, we can talk about developments in regulation, and there are a lot of news like ETF, and we had a stable coin, not stable, staking actually, guidance from FINMA in Switzerland, for example, published in December. Let's be more practical. We have people from the business industry here. Let's look at the global regulation and discuss what regulation is in favor for, where we can see improvements, or where the businesses go now, where they feel more comfortable. We just had a presentation about Hong Kong, where I can see that it can be really a long time for you have to wait, you have to invest a lot of money, but many companies, many global exchanges pending, they can't get the license in time. And the question is also, in Switzerland, we have a great regulation, but it's not always easy to get the license, and you can wait 1 year, 2 years, but the business idea already gone, you can't wait. It should be today and not in a couple years. So my question is, from your experience, your global macro experience, which jurisdictions you feel can be in favor, and which jurisdictions you can criticize, for example? And let's see if it starts from you, and we just do the round.
Sure. So I echo a lot of what was said in the first presentation. So he was mentioning, for example, that Hong Kong in the last year or so has been moving quite rapidly in this space, in part in trying to catch up with what happened after COVID and the general economy of Hong Kong kind of obviously dropping, a lot of people leaving the capital, going towards Singapore instead. As a foreigner, we have offices in Hong Kong, we have engineers there, and I was spending a lot of time there. And so when we knew that the regulations were going to come into effect and the system was going to be a little bit more proactive anyways as of June, I applied to be able to become a Hong Kong resident. And in other locations, we've worked a lot, and we hear that the government is, interested in crypto and they're trying to do something, but there's never any follow through. So as an example of that, in Busan 2 years ago, I signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Busan, with the mayor city of Busan. And the idea was that they were going to be developing a lot of let's say a crypto hub in Busan, and they were going to be trying to attract talent globally as well as locally, get some people and businesses from Seoul come down to Busan to try and reinvigorate the economy. With 6 other partners, we signed and we created the VCABB, which is a crypto capital fund, basically a VC fund. But the government never followed through. The local authorities never followed through. And so you've got capital on the side and you've got talent on the side that was willing to deploy it in Busan, for example. But in order to do so, there needs to be things to deploy to. There needs to be businesses set up there, and there needs to be investments possible to be made. The local players never really followed through on what they said they were going to do. Whereas in Hong Kong, after June came about, I applied for the top talent pass scheme that was mentioned. In 48 hours, I had it. We had incredible support from Invest Hong Kong. I'm also a recipient of the Cyberport program that he was mentioning. We went through the first wave, and we are recipients of the up to $1 million Hong Kong in subsidies that we've already started receiving because we've got staff there. So from day one, we saw in Hong Kong the local authorities, the government, politicians as well, actually follow through on what they said they were going to do, which is what I hear as well from El Salvador, where it's nice to try and tick a checkbox and try to pretend like you want to be in this space. But if there's no follow through, it doesn't really mean anything. And the area right now where I see is incredibly supportive. Hong Kong, very good. Thailand, part of my team is in Thailand right now with a government crypto conference that's being held there, because Thailand as well, new president came in, or new prime minister came in, and is trying to deploy crypto, basically airdrop 10,000 baht equivalent to everybody who's eligible in the country. So that's between 40 to 50 million different eligible citizens. And same thing, we're seeing that the government now is needing to change its own regulations and move the needle forward for their own use cases, either to be able to bring about new revenue, to be able to fractionalize assets, if we're going to talk about RWAs, that kind of thing. They're now needing to lead instead of having industry lead and them follow. When industry wants to push forward regulations, typically it's a 24 to 36 month cycle. It's very slow to actually put regulations through. But when a government actually wants to do it for their own use cases, you can shorten that time depending on the type of government that's in power. But for example, in Canada or in Hong Kong, what we're looking at is maybe a 9 to 18 month cycle instead of a 24 to 36 month, because time is of the essence. So Hong Kong, Thailand, Japan is coming back as well. I was giving an address earlier there this summer, and the Prime Minister was there, and he was saying Web3 is the future of the economies. So you've got places that are actually following through on what they're saying, and we're starting to see more and more crypto regulatory arbitrage because of that.
So it looks like Hong Kong is a really great jurisdictions to move from where you are not happy, right? Alessio, what do you think?
Maybe let me take the other side.
Yeah, of course, go for it.
Because we've been in Hong Kong. Actually, we were born in Hong Kong, so we went through the whole, all the different cycles and everything, and not all the glitters is gold. So the story of Hong Kong is that Hong Kong was really home for some of the most successful crypto companies in the world. I think about Crypto.com or FTX, Ember. I mean, some of them, they don't exist anymore, but at least at a certain point in time, they were very successful. Ember, FTX, Bitfinex, Tether, and Mocha brands as well. I mean, some of the largest crypto companies were born in BitMEX, and most of them had to leave Hong Kong.
Yes.
At a certain point in time, because the government when China banned transactions in crypto and crypto trading, basically, there was this kind of unspoken rule that you had to get out of Hong Kong if your business was big enough. So all the exchanges left and all the platforms had to leave. Then all of a sudden there was a change in the direction of wind, and something came downstream, cascaded down from mainland China, telling Hong Kong that Hong Kong should become the hub for crypto. So this was very recent. It was probably 14 months ago or something, at the end of 2022. It was received very well. Now, so this is extremely positive. However, the regulation in Hong Kong is very limited. It basically only regulates exchanges. And the exchange business in Hong Kong, by definition, cannot really thrive. The population of Hong Kong is 7 million people. So it's not really the main business that should be regulated. Hong Kong is kind of a wholesale banking hub for investment banks. Yeah.
But when you're saying regulated as exchange, does it really exchange license, or are we talking about AML regulation purely?
No, we're talking about the full. So in Hong Kong, you can get a full exchange license that allows you to do the exchange business. But for example, if you're a custodian, like we were at the beginning, you cannot get a license. If you're a broker, you cannot get a license. If you're a lending platform, you cannot get a license. So you have to be an exchange if you want to operate as a regulated entity in Hong Kong. So this is already a little bit very limiting. But then as an exchange, there are some limiting factors, limitations in the license that basically do not allow you to operate a profitable business. So for example, you cannot touch stable coins. You cannot offer leverage, right? There are a very limited number of coins that you can actually trade on the exchange. There are limitations in terms of what you can do with fiat or not. The exchange, obviously, I mean, rightly so, cannot take the money of clients and cannot use them to use it to do anything else. Staking is not allowed. So there's a whole different bunch of things that they allow you to get a license, but for now, I would say it's more of a marketing tool to say I'm regulated by the SFC in Hong Kong. But then most of the exchanges will keep on operating their international business out of offshore jurisdictions.
And this is an interesting
That's on
point.
the exchange side of things.
Yes.
So for projects, it's also very different.
For projects, there's no regulation for anything else. Yeah. So you can actually, if you're a broker, you have to operate as an unlicensed entity. If you're a DeFi project, as an unlicensed entity, ICOs, they're not allowed in Hong Kong. So I mean, so there are some. It's very good that somebody studied, and now they're putting together a regulation, but we're not there yet to be able to do whatever business we want to do and do it in a profitable way.
All right.
Now, just to close, the other jurisdictions that I like, you mentioned that El Salvador is the only jurisdiction with a specialized regulator on digital assets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also Dubai followed the same path. And I think it's the best path. Instead of debating whether Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're cryptocurrencies, commodities, securities, whatever, they said they're a new asset class. Let's create a new regulator. So we create new rules instead of adapting rules that probably don't match fully. And they created a new regulator. It's called VARA. It's a virtual asset regulator. And they have new rules written by top consulting companies and legal firms. And the regulation is very encompassing. It has exchanges, custody, staking, broker-dealer, etc. So there's a whole bunch of different activities that are well regulated and allow people to actually move there and operate a business in a semi-profitable way. The other jurisdiction I like is Europe, where, I mean, it's still the beginning, and probably you guys know much more than me about the MiCA and everything. But it's a huge opportunity because it's the only big market in the world that allows a harmonized and well-written regulation. If you think about the other big markets, China, you cannot do crypto. India, you cannot do crypto, more or less. US, I mean, you have to be very brave to go to the US to do crypto. And Europe, it's a huge market. You have different countries with different regulatory rules right now, but they will probably be harmonized and be combined into the same thing. And if they pull it off well, it could be one of the opportunities for crypto businesses.
Thank you, Alessio. But I think that when you're saying that Europe is a great market, yeah, maybe it's harmonized internally in EU, and Switzerland actually also work a lot with EU, and there are a lot of things which are now very similar, like AML regulation is very similar in crypto if you compare, but we still have other markets, and then it's not like Europe is a bit isolated, and then we create some like bipolarity in this world. Like we have US, we have Europe, and then we have Asia, BRICS countries. Probably, Guido, what is your opinion? And also maybe give us a bit overview on MiCA and what's going on in Europe.
Yeah, with pleasure. First, I would like to be an ambassador of the blockchain industry and clearly state FTX is not a blockchain project. It was a criminal scam. So please leave FTX out of our ecosystem. If we would have been transparent with FTX, then there's nothing like this would happen in the past. Second, I'm in this ecosystem, as I introduced, for quite a while. And for me, from the blockchain project side, it was really always, I came to conference and said, now we have a new regulation, and now you can finally do your projects in a safe environment. And I realized in all these years, if I look backwards, that except maybe El Salvador, who did a small step, but a clear step, and was continuing, that every year things have changed. I have a recent example to your Dubai case. I went to Dubai. I wanted to incorporate an NFT marketplace there because it was nice. You could do it without license. And during my process, it changed, and suddenly I had to, would have needed to spend hundreds of thousands dollars just to fulfill the new requirements, which came overnight. Because Dubai is a country where somebody in a higher level is just telling what to do. This has advantages, but also here then a fast change. And this makes the things then quite difficult. And I was also part of commenting a lot of comments in the initial draft of the MiCA regulation via ANATPA. And I was looking to this regulation and I said, there's a problem here for our blockchain projects. If I would take here your audience and say, it's very difficult to talk to all of you because you're from so many different nations, so many different projects, but I make it very simple. Everybody who knows where Beijing is belonged to is Chinese by today. Then I make it very easy. And MiCA is doing something similar. It's a benefit. A lot of lawyers say, wow, MiCA is finally 28 countries, same regulation. That's on one hand side true. If you're talking to really financial projects, exchanges, vast everything which is on it. But it's at the same time sucking in regulation a lot of projects who have not even thought about that they wanted to be regulated in a financial market because there's applications, there's a technology project. And this is our main problem we have here in the blockchain ecosystem, that still not enough countries really understand the technical needs of blockchain projects and even the upcoming, and put it in a regulation. And so MiCA, for me, yes, it's nice to have this huge market there, and it's even better than Dubai, because in Dubai we have not only VARA, we have 7 different regulatory bodies in one UAE area. Yeah? So, and I talked to some of the guys and said, what is your upcoming strategy? Can I trust on this thing? They said, yeah, it's difficult. We have all the 7s are not really friends with each other, and there are a lot of decisions coming up, and maybe we take a lot of things up from Europe, and then at least we have the same case here. So for me, as an entrepreneur in business projects, if you ask me about 5 years ago, which is the best country for blockchain projects, that next to El Salvador, Switzerland. That's fine. But even what we have now with staking, banking license, not banking license, we don't know what to say really. We are coming in a situation, and I decided, even if I'm a Swiss citizen, I'm really a fan of Switzerland, and I love a lot of things here, I had to change my strategy as an entrepreneur during the last period into a way that 80% of all new incorporations I'm not doing in Switzerland anymore. 20% are in Switzerland. And what I'm doing is, I looked a little bit as a legal rebel and lawyer for my risk profile in a company. So regulation is a risk in my company, and the uncertainty on that. So I looked to the industry of pharmaceutical industry, chemical industry, also the weapon industry, which are all high regulated branches. And then I said, the only thing where I see to bridge the next phase, to bridge all the upcoming goods and negative message on it, is to separate my projects into 5, 6, 7, 8 business parts, and to put, and now my personal opinion comes up, and to put any business part in a different country. To have here really a diversified, a decentralized not in the meaning of a DAO, a decentralized structure, so that whatever a regulatory body somewhere in the world is doing, he's only affecting 10-20% of my project, and the remaining part is fine, and then I can search for a replacement. And according to countries, so my scope, but it's not a full scope, but just to give you a little bit of advice on that, my scope goes from Singapore, Hong Kong. I'm not so happy with how things can change very, very fast. The Emirates, so Dubai, another one's in it. Georgia is in it. Costa Rica is in it. I have later to talk to you about El Salvador. Maybe it's on the list as well. And then all these half shady or shady,
okay, let's
BVI and Caribbean.
Let's discuss all together, El Salvador. You know, why don't you just ask questions now, because everyone want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, JC, what is your perspective? Can we bring business to El Salvador?
Definitely. I think that, you know, one of the things that's important for everyone to realize about El Salvador is that, I mean, we legalized Bitcoin, but this is all part of the strategy, the global strategy that our president has, Nayib Bukele. El Salvador didn't happen by chance. I mean, even the Bukele family, it's a family that has been involved in politics. His father was a great politician, not participating directly, but it is something that has taken legacy of about 2 generations to create what El Salvador is today from the leadership perspective. And everything that our president has promised to do, he's been able to deliver. So his vision now is, you know, following up with the conversation from this side. One of the things that we got to realize is that the new financial instruments, the digital instruments, are borderless. And I love the idea of the fact that, you know, have 20% here, 20% there. The beauty of El Salvador, I mean, you bring Bitcoin in, and many of you have probably heard that we have a passport opportunity, that if you donate $1 million to the government, you get a passport issued to you. Initially, a lot of the naysayers were, well, I can get a passport in Portugal for $250,000. Why would I go to El Salvador? Well, one of the promises the president has made is that your crypto assets will never be taxed. So every company that comes in and gets established in El Salvador, all of their profits will never be taxed. And if you, as a Salvadorian, bring your money to El Salvador, you can use your Bitcoin or other crypto assets tax-free as well. So once Bitcoin goes up to $200,000, you know, $1 million, 5 Bitcoins to get a citizenship in El Salvador, and you'll never be taxed on your assets. It's something that very likely, personally, I know many of my friends are doing right now, invest in the million, and many others will follow once Bitcoin reaches a certain amount.
Is it investing or donating?
It's a donation.
Donation.
Yeah, it's a donation.
Just a question. It's taxable still, right? You have to pay tax after.
No, you don't pay tax.
No, it's like an offshore.
Yeah, well, in El Salvador, if you transact 100% in Bitcoin, you won't be taxed.
Oh.
You can buy properties, you can spend your money, you can earn more money, but if it comes in as Bitcoin, you won't be taxed. One of the challenges we have in the problems with regulation is that myself as a regulator, I mean, we like to see projects that are ready to be developed internationally. And the old saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, let's go together. And the big picture of that is that regulation should begin at the inception level of a company. So, you know, the idea of creating something for global good, it's great. But if you eventually want to grow to a company that's going to be financially sustainable or is going to make money globally, you have to start looking at regulation from the beginning. I mean, Juan this morning mentioned some examples like Binance being the biggest one and CC being the devil that everyone points fingers at. You know, it started a business. There was no regulation. It was the Wild West. He went into every country, and now he's getting his hand slaps in many countries. And that's because of growing fast, but not growing long term. And to grow long term nowadays, you need to take regulation seriously. And that's why companies like yours are very helpful to early on stage to work with companies to be regulated. I started my position in September. From September till my first 100-day report, we have seen over 60 companies that had applied. Our regulation is high standards. My head of regulation was the senior auditor of PwC in Luxembourg. And I bring Ontario Security Exchange, which Yves would be familiar with, which is very frustrating. But we set a very high standard for Salvadorian companies to be regulated. Out of the 60, there's only 14 that have been approved, but those 14 now enjoy full tax benefits. Any business that they do in El Salvador is completely tax-free. Any earnings that they make are completely tax-free, and there's a lot of other
advantages. Take your notes, everyone.
Yeah.
But
So
I
you're
would love
20%.
but I would ask you like one question, because before we can share the million to your government, some entrepreneurs have to earn the million. So my question would be exactly for blockchain projects who have a token, a technical token or a token in it, needs any kind of exchange from another token to this token or from fiat to this token. What are their benefits if you advertise for El Salvador? What are the benefits that this project should come to your country, or are you not separating it and they're all financial institutes and need a full license regulation in El Salvador?
Okay. There's many things to your question. So
I'm a simple entrepreneur, so I
just
need
to
simple answers.
unravel your questions. When it comes to the initial thing about the passport, this is something that was created for Bitcoiners. And there is a lot of Bitcoiners in El Salvador right now enjoying the lifestyle. And the vision is that our president did have a strong vision on Bitcoin, has invested heavily in, and we believe that it's going to reach eventually $1 million, maybe by 2030, when CRYPTO2030 has its 2030. We'll be talking about $1 million Bitcoin. So the idea of the current passport for $1 million, it's mainly meant for Bitcoiners, and there's many of them already invest in that. Now, when it comes to companies coming into El Salvador, we have an open door policy. We look at every project independently, and as a regulator, we're a risk-based regulator. So as long as your project has the requirements for AML, I mean, I was mentioning to Catherine that we were just doing the GAFILAT evaluation.
FATF, yes.
Yeah. So Friday was a strong day in El Salvador because we had the GAFILAT evaluation. We had 9 evaluators asking hard questions about, well, why are these companies here? How are you? Like, well, you guys just say crypto and you believe that everything's a scam, and that's lack of education. Therefore, we're here to educate you a little bit about our risk tolerance of companies coming in. And there are many projects that definitely we believe that will become a global eminence, and we're more than happy to help them flow through. At the same time, there are many projects that it's just an idea to make a quick buck, that they're immature in the sense of from a global perspective, and they can come to El Salvador, but the regulation process, it's a bit complicated to get through.
Let's move to Switzerland now, and because we're in Switzerland, I would like to hear more about perspectives here and what's going on with regulation, Mattia.
Yes, thank you. Why I'm interested in regulation, frankly, in this space, is only because it is a strategic variable for the business. Getting it right or wrong in a dynamic way, day after day, month after month, can determine the success or the failure of your project. It's a key variable. But it's not the only one. I mean, if you are an entrepreneur with money to raise or money in the pocket and a good idea that you work it out properly and you believe in it, you will not decide whether to proceed or not because the interest rate is 5% or 1% of negative. You don't care about these things. What you care is the ability to establish your business for the foreseeable future in an environment that provides you with all what you need. So a stability in regulation, ability to speak with the regulator, is one key factor, but not the only one. You need in a country to establish your business access to capital, access to talents, access to technical resources, access to living places, etc., etc. There are a lot of other things that are important to establish a business in the Web3 space, to go back to the original question that you raised. The regulatory environment, which is stable and at the same time flexible in order to accommodate new ideas that were not foreseen by the regulation before, is an absolutely key element. And we can go back from that point to Switzerland. Switzerland has a long history in regulating crypto that started in 2013, actually, 11 years ago, nearly, with the first pronouncement about Bitcoin by the Federal Council. And then from there, it went very fast. And progressively, we had the ICO guidelines in 2017, 18, and 19, adding the stablecoin. We had one of the first countries to establish a sandbox approach. We had the fintech bank license made exactly for the purpose of supporting a crypto business, let alone all the AML compliance and adaptation to the law that were made. And then the key breakthrough obviously came in 2021, but began in 2018 when the Federal Council decided to basically complete the existing financial law in a way that it would cover all Web3 aspects. This was the DLT law that came into effect in 2021, and which now provides Switzerland with a comprehensive approach and quite flexible approach to Web3 businesses. So it is indeed a very nice country to establish business because you can count on these things. In particular, since 2013, every decision that was made on which entrepreneurs have based their investments have not been changed. Now, of course, Switzerland is a small country. Yeah, it doesn't have the capital force and the population background and everything that a US economy may have or a EU economy may have. But it remains a very open country where you can really establish your Web3 business and prosper. I may maybe say a couple of things about other jurisdictions, the way I see it. Okay, Switzerland has had this privilege to be the first one. And it was because the business came for the first time, Web3 business came to Switzerland and not to other countries for exactly these openness reasons. Now, meanwhile, crypto has catch up and Web3 has catch up as it should, because it is a technology that we hope to see in 2030 simply dominating every aspect of the society by adding the value that this technology can bring. And we will even not care and not notice that this technology is behind whatever we will be doing. So you also see, I go a bit freestyle, but you also see that I'm a strong believer that what we are regulating here is a technology. So I don't agree to establish regulation technology-based, because then you have technology number 2, regulation number 2, technology number 3, regulation number 3, VARA 1, VARA 2, VARA 3, it's a mess. So I'm a strong candidate and supporter of the Swiss approach that has seen this technology-neutral approach to regulation, which make it very nimble, very adaptable for the next steps. And I switch here maybe quickly, again freestyle, and you stop me when you are here enough, to the MiCA. Yes, MiCA is a great achievement, particularly when you see the mess that happened in the US, where uncertainty is at its highest, worldwide, as far as crypto is concerned. MiCA is a good thing, but in my view, it is not principle-based enough. It is not, in my view, a law that makes things easier to start-upper at all. It's not start-upper friendly, and it is too elaborated, and therefore it is always catching up. We saw it already from the first draft to the second draft. The second draft, meanwhile, NFTs had happened, and DeFi's had happened. Guess what? They have added this. So in the next 3 years, God knows what will happen. So MiCA has these two drawbacks, in my view. And for the other countries, the US is a big market. We were all celebrating the openness of the US market when the Biden order came. Because you see, oh, fantastic. Here there is finally a top-down approach which will put everything in place in the US. It didn't happen. for reasons that I could elaborate on, that has to do mainly with the fraction and geographical approach and jurisdictional approach within the United States of multiple regulators that cannot agree and cannot coordinate themselves. I saw the drawbacks of this approach already when I was in traditional finance, to be honest, very clearly. Then you have countries like the UAE catching up very fast. You have countries like Singapore who push the brake a little bit because they were caught up in difficulties and scams. Hong Kong is ramping up very fast, taking advantage of what happened in the US as well. And then hopefully we see a lot of further progress in other jurisdictions, South America, Africa, I think.
Exactly.
Last
I
year
was asking, we didn't talk about Africa at all today.
Last year, I think, was was a big year for African countries. They move on a lot. Also, you don't have to forget it's really important that I say that. I mean, without the openness of the international regulators and many national regulators, and crypto will not be here at the stage where it is. We have actually to say a little bit of a thank to most of the international regulators because they have been a great advocates to the crypto business without noticing it, because they have supported it, and therefore they've lent acceptance to that technology. This has been a big issue. We see it most prominently with the CBDC discussion, which is bringing crypto to a lot of countries, that otherwise maybe would not be so open.
And you will moderate CBDC session, so you will
come on
come
Thursday here.
Yes, and you will be moderating a session on
Friday.
Metaverse. Yeah.
So, but I would like to jump in on one thing. So, as I said, I'm a fan of Switzerland, and we did a lot of things very good, and I'm really believing that Switzerland will do it also in future. But even there, from the entrepreneurial side, we had the guidance in 2018 about the tokenization, what kind of tokens are utility token and all the categorization. And it was perfect at that time, and we have been world leading. But then in our regulatory body in FINMA, the team changed. And now we have still this guidance, but I haven't seen for a while any project justified as a utility token anymore. So the original idea was super, but if you cannot get it as a project, then you're in a mess. And here I hope now, and we are working on it together, that this regulatory opinion is changing again to make it possible for technology projects to be compliant with this topic. And the second, what you mentioned, I also wanted to address. When I entered 2016 this ecosystem, I said, and I hope nobody will now kill me for that, stay out of the US, because I said this is a market, it's very difficult for blockchain. And now I added, since I contributed to Mika, stay out of Europe. So I said, look to the world. We have, if you deduct the 300 million and the other 300 million, then we have still about more than 7 billion people on this planet. And what was the original idea of our blockchain? Transparency and tamper-proofed and accessing the world. Give everybody on this planet access to this world. And so there's huge market, which especially Africa you mentioned, but also South America, we could serve if this project's going in a proper way. But we have to be also in a way that it works. If you have somebody in South Sudan and you ask him for a nice utility bill of the last 3 months, it might be a problem for him to have this utility bill to be compliant. So here I would really advertise and say, let's take it global and go for it.
Guido, with utility bill, I suggest we still have 10 minutes to discuss banking.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would give you a short round just to talk about banking, because we have the same problem with the banks, traditional versus crypto. And because we have to use banks often, we can't just be in crypto world. We get a lot of problems. I work with a lot of projects where we have account closed. Reason, you are blockchain, you are dealing with crypto. It's become, and if you by chance get an account with even Seba Bank, which is now not Seba anymore, they rename it. Yeah. But you have to pay enormous amount of money because they don't know how to deal with you. You pay extra for being compliant, that they have to check. They have to use technology, which is expensive. And my guess is technology should be more like scalable. Yes, if you have technology, it can be easier to trace, especially on blockchain, all these transactions. So my question is, where the projects should go to deal with banks, which jurisdictions, or yeah, maybe we start from you.
Yeah, no, Ekaterina, let me build on that a little bit on what Guido said as well. I mean, maybe 3 points. It's true. Switzerland is not a paradise. There are things that are not working well as well. I would mention, leveraging Guido, the fact that there are pieces of legislation that need to be rediscussed and upgraded. That number one. Number two, bank accounts. This has been a big problem in the 2017-18 to get banks opening accounts to blockchain companies. We did a great job at that time with the CVA, also with the support of the federal authorities to discuss with the Swiss Banker Association to write guidelines to help banks opening such bank accounts. I think now we are a little bit back to square zero again. I think we need to revamp that discussion. And my third point is a bit broader about compliance, as you mentioned it. I come from traditional finance, and I left traditional finance where I realized that compliance was absolutely not business friendly, absolutely not business supportive, a pure obstacle to business. And I was very pleased, I'm still very pleased that in the crypto finance community, compliance has been very supportive, has been business-oriented, enabling business. Now, I see coming up a potential danger, given all the administrative stuff that you mentioned, that we go back to a world that compliance makes things actually difficult instead of being business-oriented. This is something we need to take care and take action.
Well, and I'm not going to lie, I mean, banking in El Salvador too, I mean, we're probably even more challenged than most countries because we use the US dollar. And as US dollar user, you have to comply to US laws when it comes to financial transparency and everything. And I think this here emphasizes the point of separation between the regulatory bodies. The traditional financing or traditional finance regulatory body, it's massive, is overly structured from my perspective, and slow to move, slow to react. Specifically to banks, we're hoping within the next 6 months to have crypto-only banks set up in El Salvador. We're completely separated if you're doing digital assets, as long as, I mean, one of the challenges we have, people show up to El Salvador, they got one Bitcoin and then they want US dollars from their Bitcoin, but you can't do that. It's laundering money. It doesn't, you're not allowed to do that. You have to explain the finality of the money, where it came from, all the rules and everything apply. However, if you just remain in crypto, you're allowed to use our national currency, which is Bitcoin, and you can pay everyone anything and purchase and do everything as long as you stay with Bitcoin, as you would with any other currency, as long as you don't switch over to the US dollar. So from the banking side for companies, we're hoping within the next 6 months to have the first digital banks set up. As you can imagine, the traditional financial industry is not super eager to work with our companies. I mean, I come from the experience like Yves from the Canadian side, and I mean, I buy Bitcoin with my personal Canadian bank account, and now I'm getting out of it. It's not very friendly. And this is worldwide. It's not very friendly. Yeah. And this has always been the challenge that the traditional financial industry does not understand or want to be part of crypto. In El Salvador, the banks are, you know what, we're wealthy, we're making a lot of money. Why do we have to bother with you and the risk that you bring on board if we're doing really well? And that has always been, I mean, the biggest challenge in the States is the traditional financial industry is so wealthy that this is a competition for them, that if they can, instead of adopt, if they can suppress by creating what's going on in the States, they will do that. And this is my worry with MiCA, and in Switzerland, not as much, but the rest of Europe, and that's why I echo that, you know, MiCA is also going to create this environment that in in El Salvador, when you come in, you have to pretty much geofence and make sure that you're not doing business with American residents or citizens, just to make sure we don't overstretch ourselves and create that potential problem that we could have. So,
Guido.
I was affected 2 times by this closure of bank accounts. So my first recommendation is, as a project, even if it costs you money, you have to have 3 bank accounts at the same time. This is for one lesson learned. The second was, about 2 weeks ago, I did a transfer between Binance, my wallet, and a provider, a banking provider, and it ended up not only sending the specific amount, also to have screenshots of the Binance transaction, everything. It was a nightmare. So we should really, in crypto, try to do as much transactions with our providers and suppliers on crypto, not to go too much in this area. And the third thing I learned, I tried to push and support a bank in Germany to become a crypto bank, and the regulatory bodies killed this bank, even if it was a well-established bank. So even there is a high risk on it. So my suggestion is there are banks, and SEBA, for example, without that I get any advertisement fee for that, is offering bank accounts not only for projects in Switzerland. They have a long list of countries, I think Singapore, BVI, there are a lot of countries on it. They offer bank accounts for it. And so have a look, also Bank of Asia, Signum, Merki Baumann, look to a lot of banks and try to get step by step, even if it's a lot of forms, a lot of work to do, to have 3 bank accounts if you need to have any expenses in fiat. Otherwise, as a project, you are running a high risk.
Alessio, you.
I'm a little bit worried because regulation is good. Now we have the ETF and all these things, and everybody's very excited. But at the end of the day, what's happening in the crypto world is really bringing in all those rules that we have in traditional finance. And on top of that, everybody's basically high risk, classified automatically as high risk.
By default.
So even the kind of the enhanced due diligence and all those things apply to basically every single crypto business. And if we think medium term about the fact that if we bring in all the rules that we have in traditional finance, so travel rule, the finality of the transactions, all the KYC, and lots of the advantages of the blockchain applications and the assets actually will not disappear, but they will be much lower than what we would expect, right? We will not have finality in transactions. We will not have instant settlement. We will always have intermediaries in the middle that will be able to determine whether that transaction should be credited to your account with that exchange or not, based on the due diligence that is done. So I think we have to be careful. If we ask, does anybody really like the KYC processes or all these things that we do in the banks? And also, but are they really preventing? Are they really effective? The most effective ways to prevent money laundering and terrorism financing? So, or maybe leveraging what we have in the blockchain world. Maybe that leveraging the technology, the fact that transactions are all public, the fact that we can actually apply statistical models to transactions to see actually where the money is going. It's actually not very easy to launder money, big amounts of money in crypto. Maybe if we work in the other direction, instead of bringing all the traditional finance regulation to crypto, kind of coming up with models that are more effective, maybe we can really build something that has a value.
Yeah, Alessio, this is very interesting what you say. I agree absolutely on a few points. You are bringing in particular the aspect of regulating the new technology as applied to finance by simply expanding the approach used by traditional finance. I think this is indeed a flawed approach that works well for 80% of the cases, but not for the remaining 20%. And the remaining 20%, then it will probably kill or hamper the development of the business, Web3 business significantly. I'll give you 2 examples. One, I experienced that in DeFi. I mean, the regulators, global regulators, have no other fantasy or creativity in that to try to regulate DeFi as CeFi. It's a contradiction in terms. It will not work. in the sense that the DeFi will be penalized. Another example, I made it also clear in my writing to the Basel Committee, was the treatment of the crypto holdings in the balance sheet of the banks. Also there, if it is baked, if a crypto is baked by an asset that is a traditional one, then you apply the traditional way of doing things. If the crypto is not baked, it's pure, well, then it's toxic in an absolutely great way, and they deserve to be penalized. These are the limitations of the current global approach to regulation. Try to expand just what works in the traditional finance, misrecognizing the originality of the technology and what it brings to the financial sector.
And,
But 10 seconds, maybe, just to say, I have a background on criminal police as well, so by my
So
family.
you're not regulating your criminal police?
No, but I wanted to say, first of all, you will never be able to fully stop criminals. Second, what you said, we have a DNA, an irrevocable DNA in crypto. And if I want to go for any drug deal and I'm an intelligent one, I take a suitcase with dollars or Swiss francs, and they are not regulated and not controlled. So if the regulatory bodies come up and say, you're in a shady environment and you are with crypto, no, sorry, we are the one with transparency, tamper-proof, and we can show the tracking what you cannot do.
And I just would like to add, we will have a lot of sessions this week, and we will actually talk. We name here a lot of topics, and many of them will be discussed in a particular session. And just to support your idea that we need to actually move traditional towards crypto and use new technology, we will talk about zero knowledge proof. We will talk about sovereign identity, which is still not regulated. We're not allowed to do many things because there are not a regulatory practice. But this is what needs to be adapted by industry. If I give you the last word in this conversation today, and then I will make a short summary, because we would like people also to have a break. And but it's great, I like your dialogue. And guys, I just after Yves speak, you can talk to each of the panelists privately here.
So it's kind of a combination of everything that's been said, and I'll try to wrap it up in one tiny summary in the end. Like Guido, like what you were saying in terms of, in a way, regulatory arbitrage, banking arbitrage, we take the same approach where we've incorporated multiple different jurisdictions, different components of the businesses. That way, if one falls, you still have something else running. I did the same thing with banking. Personally, banking been shut down on a few occasions. In Canada, we've got the big five, basically. And it's what you said earlier, where why would they support something if it's unknown risk, which automatically puts it at a high risk, and they don't necessarily make money off of it? So why would they, right? And so they close down. In Canada, what we have as a I guess, an optional approach is the co-op banking system and trust. So for example, for us, we set up something at Alberta Trust Bank, which then is pro-crypto. They do know that the transactions are coming in from crypto. They're good with that. The onboarding process was obviously much more challenging than a regular process, but it's an option available. Hong Kong right now, surprisingly, HSBC, which has been very it's been very difficult with crypto and HSBC in the past. Now that Hong Kong has opened doors, we've actually had success with HSBC.
They will close it very soon, though.
But with the regulators actually pushing for them to allow for that to happen. So far, it's been okay.
If you're in exchange.
It's been okay so far. But it goes back to what Guido was saying. You need to have multiple. And I guess I'll close with this is, it's kind of a summary of what a lot of you said is we're trying to take the current approach and apply it to crypto right now. I think the future of this in the short term, many of us, the majority of us, still interact in the real world. If we want to buy something right now, we need fiat. In the long term, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. One EOS is one EOS. I think as soon as the long-term solution is we depeg to fiat, where it's no longer relevant to have traditional banking, because now you'll be transacting in crypto to crypto. People will change the paradigm of, instead of having stable coins and looking at things in US dollars or Swiss francs or Canadian dollars, you'll just look at it. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. One Satoshi is one Satoshi.
CRYPTO2030, yes?
That's the idea.
Absolutely.
So
that's the long-term goal.
I would like to thank you, all of you, because it's great, and you come from different locations, and it's a great dialogue. I just, as a moderator, I have a summary. First of all, we all need definitely to visit El Salvador. Because we all will see that it's easy to do business, and there it's already CRYPTO2030. You can only use Bitcoin, and you have no tax. So you can talk to our representative after the session and get more insight. Also, Hong Kong is not too bad, but we need to
Depends who you're asking.
wait for the better regulation, because not many things are possible apart from exchange license. Switzerland is very stable, yes. So if you want stability, you come to Switzerland. I'm not sure what position take about your approach.
He's decentralized.
No, yes, we please go to as many jurisdictions as possible. This is the advice from Guido.
Risk management, absolutely.
Yes, and this is probably our summary from today, and thank you very much. I officially close the section.